Shalom. This is Zipporah, and I'm going to do a few more videos. I around just being targeted, and I was looking at a couple of videos earlier, and these were it really put it on my heart. The Holy Spirit just kind of touched me right there. Listening to different individuals who are just dealing with this. I how can I say this in various we're all at different areas in this, those of us who are dealing with this. And I also, keep in mind that there are people who they have no idea that this is going on. When we, find ourselves in a conversation with someone and we mention this to them and they have no idea, their ideas about it, their opinions are kind of like off the cuff, comments and such that they make, show very clearly that they're not, they don't have any clue. They're not, part of the perpetrators or anything, and they're also not, are not dealing with this. But I watched one video where this fellow was this was a Gentile fellow who was just talking about, he's going through it right now. And I think it feels like I got the idea from his video that maybe he's hasn't quite developed like tools of survival yet. He hasn't quite gotten there yet. That's kind of the idea that I got just from what he was talking about and the experience that he had just had and what he's dealing with. And he was saying things like, just feeling like these people, like I'm going to be kidnapped and, like I'm going to be murdered. And I just, oh my gosh, I mean, and just being this out there and just like vulnerable and, putting his trust in people who, from his perspective, betrayed him or abandoned him and rejected him. And, his, it's just a lot of us, who are past that, we can relate. We know that, and the scriptures say, don't put your trust in man. But, a lot of us, we have to learn the hard way. I can remember when I first became aware of it, that I literally was being singled out and targeted. I too, would still, befriend people, and with the hopes that, that they're going to be someone, like a confidant, or maybe just like a casual friend. And lo and behold, these were people who were either the people that were stalking me noted the friendships and would, maybe when I wasn't there, come up to this guy and, maybe say whatever it was they said, told whatever lie they told. And, then the very next time I would, have a conversation with them, I would be met with hostility or with suspicion, or I would all of a sudden, have to deal with them trying to avoid me, and, just it can be really devastating. And then the other part that I also had to deal with and really contend with, that was probably even more difficult, was those who would approach me to become my friends but were actually perpetrators. Because and again, those of you who have dealt with this, you know what I'm talking about. It's easier for them to attack and assault when our guard is down, and we will, the like natural human response is to let your guard down around your loved ones, to let your guard down around friends, and family, and so there are those who will wear a mask. They will literally wear a mask and, be smiling and, hey, all right now. And, just trying to talk to you and, really start to, you thinking, hey, this is really cool. Be a friend. And lo and behold, X number of days later or weeks later or however long it takes, you realize this person is not your friend. Okay. This individual, I mean, there were people that I befriended who literally, I mean, they would loan me money. They would, give me rides, invite me for dinner, hang out, go to movies. And the entire time they were running on another program. There was another program running in the background, if you want to get technical like that, or they had another agenda that they were running on. And after a while, just because of like other experiences that I had had, growing up, okay, and just cultivated throughout my life, okay, I I started, how can you say it? I started to see, I could see them coming, or I could see them coming. I'll just say it like that. Um, and something else that also helped me out was I had already done like years of work on like recovery issues. Coming from a broken home with alcoholism, and single parent household where my mom was not. She was what you would call a functioning alcoholic. Okay. um, but still there was neglect, you know so I had a lot of childhood abandonment issues, and dealing with abuse, dealing with incest, molestation. But having at this point, having done like a lot of recovery work, I mean a lot of recovery work. So if if I had probably been awakened to the fact that I was being targeted before I had done that recovery work, my experience would probably be a lot different. But I had, luckily, through just the grace and the blessings of the Most High, I already had, done a lot of recovery work. And so basically, I was living outside of the country. I got involved with a fellow, his brother, who was really, I thought, he was, I thought it was okay. We were going to work out, but it didn't work out. And I ended up leaving. And I remember, when I came back to, I mean, when I got back to the continental United States, when I got down to Florida, I can remember, going into a shelter. And that night I had the most horrible nightmare dream where this brother literally, walked up in the shelter. I'm in a women's shelter. Okay. This guy walked up in there, and I mean, I just woke up out of that dream. You talk about, I mean, many of us have had them where you just like, covered in sweat, just looking around, like literally like you think, like the dream is about to come true. Like at any second, this, my ex is literally going to come walking through the door. I mean, that's how real it was. But it was down there. That's when it really, there was no doubt then that I was being stalked, and that I was being targeted, because that was one of the threats that he had made. And so, like I said, there are those of us who are dealing with this, who, um, in terms of being targeted or gang stalked, where they feel that it's from the government, or that it's, conspiracy. And then I'm sure there are those, I mean, who think that it's aliens. Everyone has their own different take and their own perspective on it. So, I mean, well, like for me, I don't necessarily believe in aliens like that, but I'm not going to, re- you know, reject them, or blow them off, because hey, it's real for them. Okay. And if that's the terminology that they want to use, and that's the filter that they have on, then so be it. There are people who don't agree with the filter that I have, or the terminology, vocabulary that I use. I mean, this right here, this is my sword. Okay. And there are people who are dealing with this who don't believe in the Bible, who think that that it's all technology, and it's all the government, and and politics, and chemtrails. And so to talk about it from this perspective, for them, they're not going to do it. So I can't um discount other people's experiences, or their perspective and such. But I really, he this ex of mine, he basically had told me, oh well, no one's going to believe you. And so I knew that there was like witchcraft, and there was like a satanic element in it. I mean, that I got. And so I made it back here. And it was there, starting when I was in Florida, that it really started. And I knew that I was being targeted. I knew that I was being gang stalked. And I knew that they were using technology, that they were using witchcraft. I mean, I knew it. And so I got a ticket to go cross country, to come back, to the West Coast. And there were people who literally, okay, just like I was saying in a previous video, how I know, you know even though I can't prove it, I know that there were people in some of the shelter that I was in, who I believe really were not homeless, that got themselves into that shelter so that they could be closer to their victims, and that when the shelter closed and everyone had to leave for the day, that they probably went back to their house, and showered, changed their clothes, and got a good meal and rested, and got caught up on their sleep, and then would show up when the shelter opened, still wearing grungy clothes, and putting on that facade of being homeless so that they could then continue on their little targeting crusade. Okay, so when I was coming across on this Greyhound bus going coming back to the West Coast, there were people who I know were following me. I mean, just different things that were said, things that were done, and I didn't. Okay, I'm not a part of that. I don't participate in that. I don't believe in doing that to people. Okay, I'm a victim of it, but I've never been a part of that. Poking pins in dolls, and going through people's trash and looking for nail clippings and hair clippings, and going to Madame Cleo's, and I mean that's I no, it's just no. I mean I'm a victim of it, but I've never no, I ain't got time for that, and I ain't got the money, and I don't trust people enough to do it. I mean I just no, not gonna happen. But I saw and dealt with some things on that trip that just really opened my eyes to another side of life that I didn't know was out there, and it was just through the grace of the Most High that I made it through. And so that was experienced on that trip. Just on that trip there were people who were on the again like I said, who were on that bus just to mess with me. They literally, I guess, these people are committed to this. Some of these people are just committed to doing this type of wickedness and cruelty, who literally, I mean, think about how bought tickets, okay, to travel, maybe, they would get a ticket to, I mean, this is how organized this stuff is. They knew that, my ultimate destination was going to be the West Coast. And so they, of course, some of them, wouldn't stop their lives like that to just like, get on a bus and go all the way across the country. But, they could, stop their, lives, get a bus ticket to go, say, to all the way through to Alabama. And then somebody else would pick it up from Alabama to the other side of Texas. And then maybe somebody else or a group of them would go from Arizona all the way across to, you know what I mean? They would do it like that. I mean, I saw some of them. I mean, I began to really just notice them and pick up on them. And they, by their actions and by the things that they said and the way they approached me, I knew I was right. So that's what I mean when I say I started to see them coming. I just, and it's never stopped, they would, try to do the sleep deprivation, sit behind me. I'm in my bus seat, they're in their bus seat, and they would, ram their knee into the back of my seat, right when I'm falling asleep to keep me awake. There were red cars, or some with like a red license plate or like red stickers that would follow the bus, and they would like, here's the bus. Maybe I'm in a window seat. Like if this is the bus, they would come along, and and honk, and pull up like literally right where my window was at, and honk. I mean, just things like that. There were people who would, again, like I just gave other examples, in previous videos, who would have conversations, right within earshot, trying to lure me into the conversation or to drop hints, that, to get my mind to start thinking about those things that they were talking about, so that, because the mind can be, if you, we pick up on a lot of things, and we can start to like fixate, and we can start to, depending on, I guess, like your own health, your own mental health. I don't know how to phrase it, but you can start to fixate on things, or you can start to develop a psychosis. Okay, like I said, like for example, with this fellow whose video, I was watching, he was talking about being, feeling like he was going to be kidnapped and murdered. I mean, clearly he had had some types of interactions with people who had put that out there. I guess you would call it the power of suggestion. And so he really started to tune into that. Okay. And so this is what I mean is like I'm on the bus riding, across country, and if I didn't know, if I had not known what was going on, it would have been easy for me to do that because of the conversation that they would have, like one person sitting right in front of me on one side of the aisle in front of me, and there's somebody sitting in the seat right across from them on the other side of the aisle. And they, of course, are talking just loud enough for the person, if I'm right behind them, to hear the conversation. And they're alluding to things and insinuating things. And maybe, the one that I can kind of like see, maybe kind of like looks back in my direction or whatever. And the average person, when you're, dealing with something like that, depending on what the topic is, you might start to listen. Yeah. Oh no, what does that mean? I mean, and then your mind will start to run with it, you know. Um, but luckily, I mean, this is the way the Most High works. It's just amazing because there were also people, on that bus who clued in also to what they were doing. They maybe didn't know that they were doing it to me, but they knew, okay, this guy's weird, or this girl, I can't believe. I mean, I had a conversation with one girl, and I was saying to her, when when you're traveling on a bus cross country, you stop at Denny's, the bus stops here, or the bus, stops there, and people are allowed to get off and stretch their legs and go into the restaurant and buy something, use the bathroom or whatever. And then 15, 30 minutes later, everybody loads up and the bus, takes off, gets back on the interstate and goes. So, you begin to, develop, maybe like some friendships with different people. And I remember having a conversation with this one girl, and there was this family who had gotten on. It was the family. Okay, it was the family. Okay, the specifically the older brother and sister who were targeting me. The mom was there, but she was like, she was just like this jaded, she just did not give a. I mean, it was amazing. But I can remember having a conversation with another girl, and I just kind of said something about them, and she goes, I mean, she's a white girl. She was like, yeah, totally. Like the girl, she is a total bitch. I mean, really. I was like, oh my gosh, yes, I am back in the United States. But my point is that other people who aren't aware necessarily of what's going on, because we're all spirits, okay? And so we're spirits in physical vessels, okay? They picked up on stuff that was going on, but they didn't really know what was going on. And so, and I think the Most High put them in my path for a reason. Some of them, I remember having a conversation with an older brother who was, he was not a part of that. And I literally said to him at one point, I said, there's people that are, they're messing with me, and it just really feels, really weird. And he said to me, literally, he said, those types of people are always going to be around. What you need to do, you just need to focus your mind, get back home, and just stay in school and don't even worry about those people. Hello. I mean, wow. That was appropriate. That was what I needed at that point in time. That is what I needed. Okay, I'm gonna stop this and do a part two. But yeah, the Most High puts people in. He'll put people in your path. Okay, that will definitely help you out. The Most High is watching this. He's the Creator. He's watching this. You are not alone. Okay, let me just say that right now. You are not alone. Okay, shalom.